Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. I may not be covering them, so I'm just going to give a quick chat and a quick bit of love to the Speed Chess Championship and their quarterfinals. They obviously had the round of 16 before that, which was actually very exciting. So Magnus Carlsen got past in relatively calm fashion Jose Martinez, 14.5 to 8.5. Then Fabiano Caruana got past Pragdanand Rameshbabu by 1 point. Denis Lazavik got past Arjun Erigaisi, 12 points to 9. Hans Niemann made a mockery of Ding Liren's return, beating him 18 points to 6. Alireza Firouzja got through against Tuan Minlay, 16 points to 8, so quite comfortable. Ian Nepomniachtchi got past Anish Giri in comfortable fashion, 17.5 to 10.5. Hikaru Nakamura made a little bit of a meal of it, getting past Lekwang Liam, 13.5 to 11.5. And then Wesley So, 14 points to 11, knocking out Vincent Keimer. A little bit unexpected. You may have thought Vincent would go through. But that does leave us now with the quarterfinals. In the first quarterfinal, starting, probably the day when you see this, the 14th of November, it is Magnus Carlsen versus Fabiano Caruana. Magnus Carlsen, the 4-time Speed Chess champion, against Fabiano Caruana. I'm going to go with Magnus Carlsen's probably going to win that. The next 3 matches, though, are probably a little bit harder to call. Whoever plays Magnus in the semifinals will be either Denis Lazavik or Hans Niemann. Hans Niemann looking to make a back-to-back live semifinals, just by the way. The semifinals and the final will be held live in London in February. I don't know who to pick between Denis Lazavik and Hans Niemann. I think it's quite a close matchup. I'm going to give it to Hans Niemann. I just think he's in better form, given his first game against Ding Liren, nice and composed. I think he's just a little bit better than Lazavik. If Lazavik pulled off the upset, though, would not be surprised. But I do go in with Hans being the favorite. The next 2 games, we'll start with Hikaru Nakamura versus Wesley So. Obviously, Hikaru and Magnus, opposite sides of the bracket. Everyone's predicting a Hikaru-Magnus final. That's not what we got last year. We got a Magnus-Alireza final, where Magnus became a 4-time Speed Chess champion. And I could see the same thing happening. We could get a Alireza Firouzja and Hikaru Nakamura semi-final. That is what I'm predicting. Ian Nepomniachtchi has not had a great couple of months. He's not in great form. But this is a very different format to what you normally play. 2 blitz segments and a bullet segment. In case you don't know how the Speed Chess Championship works, they play like 75 minutes of like 5+1 or whatever. And then 60 minutes of like 3+1. And then 30 minutes of 1+1. Okay, so it's, blitz chess, speed chess, whatever. 2 blitz segments and a bullet segment. They play like for 2 hours. It's a very long match. I could very much see Ian Nepomniachtchi or Wesley So pulling off the upsets. I know I realize I'm going into every match as 50-50. But I do really think it will be Alireza and Hikaru getting through. I'm going to give that as 95%. I think Hikaru is almost guaranteed to go through. Wesley So, fantastic player. Not a great blitz and bullet player. But Hikaru has been struggling of late. So every match he plays is a bit uncertain. And he made a bit of meal of it against Lekwang Liam. But I still think Hikaru makes it to the semi-final. So I'm predicting that the semi-finals will be Magnus Carlsen and Hans Niemann and Alireza Firouzja and Hikaru Nakamura. And what a shock. That's the semi-final matchups from last year. And of course, the winners will then face each other. And I'm actually going to predict that for the 2nd year in a row, we're going to have Magnus Carlsen versus Alireza Firouzja. But we will talk about that more in February when they go to the live finals. A reminder, the live finals in London, February 7th to February 8th. Of course, there is something else to talk about, though. And that is that the top 3 players, I believe, from this event qualify to the Esports World Cup. Now, Magnus Carlsen has already qualified to the Esports World Cup because he is the reigning champion. So, where does that leave everybody else? Well, whoever else gets to the final, at this point, most likely Alireza Firouzja or Hikaru Nakamura, will qualify to the Esports World Cup. Now, because Magnus gets to the final, it does not mean whoever finishes 4th qualifies. That's not how it's working. That spot will go to the ladder from Title Tuesdays, which Hans Niemann is performing quite well in, as is Denis Lazavik, as is Jose Martinez. They're performing all right. So this isn't do or die for them. There is this, which is from Split 1. There will be the Chess.com Global Championship, which will be in Split 2, which you would again, if he plays, favor Magnus Carlsen, Hikaru Nakamura, and Alireza to win, which they probably will. So how many spots are we getting from these events? And that is a question I'm going to leave you with, because I'm so happy. I love the Speed Chess Championship. I think it's a really interesting format because it's not just 2 games or whatever. They play lots of games, and players can tilt, and the momentum can swing, particularly when you get into the different time controls. Like traditionally, I remember watching the finals, the last couple of finals when it was Magnus and Hikaru. So that's 2023 and 2022. And, Hikaru makes a good start, but then Magnus comes back. Or Magnus takes early lead, and he's got to continue to hold it as Hikaru begins to fight back and close the lead. And you get to bullet, and then Hikaru's all of a sudden, he wins the segment, but he loses the match or something like that. I love it because the time controls change, and the momentum can change with that. And it just gives people a reset. Obviously, they don't play it back-to-back. There is a short break between the segments. But it is just so exciting. And the live finals last year was fantastic, and I'm looking forward to it in London this year. But as a means for the Esports World Cup, I think it's going to be quite boring. I think Magnus Carlsen, Hikaru Nakamura, Alireza Firouzja are going to dominate this and dominate the Global Chess Championship when it comes around next year. But let me know what you think. Will there be upsets? Will Fabiano Caruana pull off the biggest upset, probably of the quarterfinals, and knock out Magnus Carlsen? Will Denis Lazavik, Ian Nepomniachtchi, or Wesley So create any upsets and win any of their games? Let me know what you think in the comments where you hear this. Cheers.